This is one of the greatest leaders in Africa, King Amase I, who expelled the Hyksos and consolidated Africa's borders. He became pharaoh at a young age of only 16, and his mother, Queen Utefe, was co-regent with him in the early part of his reign. His father, Skwengenyre II, and his brother, Kamuse, were killed fighting the Hyksos. We want to say that once you know your enemy, you know which tools to use. You know you will defeat your enemy and win by being methodical, subtle, and ruthless. Never forget this statement: enemy is not your friend. We want to look at this topic. If you don't know your enemy, we want to ask, who is your enemy? How do you know your enemy? How would you defeat your enemy? We want to give an intellectual basis which we can use to tackle the statement, if you don't know your enemy. First, let's define enemy. This word comes from the two prefixes in, which is not, and the amiakas, which is friend, making enemy not a friend. So when two armies are fighting, they are not being friendly. Let's give a clearer definition in our melanin dominant languages. In Yoruba, your enemy is Ota. In Chikaranga is Mubengi. In Zulu, Isita. In Xhosa, Ushaba. In Swahili, Adui. In Sutu, Sera. And in Igbo, Onyeiro. We present also a book that is very, very important and interesting to solve the problems that we all face. This booklet entitled How You Can Survive Current Tragic Wars Against Our Race. It's available from Amazon. The thematic background to our topic, if you don't know your enemy, emerges from the historical trail of events that culminated in the destruction of all melanin dominant civilizations. In Kemet, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, Tigris and Euphrates River Valley in the Maya, America, as well as Mohenjo-Daro in India. This was done by people that were jealous, committed genocide, and tactics that they used were vicious and violent. Therefore, each and every melanin dominant human being alive today is a victim of these events, whether they be educated, rich, poor, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, the president of countries, government ministers mandating vaccines or attending United Nations meetings. They are victims. They are not there independently. The greatest civilization built by our ancestors that dotted all four corners of the earth, and the largest of all and most enduring, was and is the Nile Valley civilization. So the ancient melanin dominant civilizations went through a series of colonizations and suffered slow decline that the enemy took advantage of and violently overthrew. The first to inflict this disaster were the Persians in 600 BCE, followed by the Greeks and Macedonians in 332 BCE, and then the Romans, who are the cousins of the Greeks, in 49 BCE. The Romans and the Greeks, so-called Greco-Romans, are ruling the earth today. In the last 50 years, they have started to give power and authority to the Chinese. And China recently launched 2 hypersonic nuclear missiles which circled the earth and defied the laws of physics, a report says. And because of that, China is on the verge of ruling the world. Now, we have 2 sources of enemies, internal and external. Only one internal enemy is going to be dealt with in this post. From this historical chronology we have given, we are able to correctly predict from the first actions of contact who is our enemy. On a psychosociological point, our number one enemy resides inside us. Is our 3 brains: the head, source of logic, and intellect. So if you lose logic and intellectual capacity, you are now working against yourself. You are now your own enemy. Your heart, if your heart is not in the good place and your heart is evil, you are now your own enemy and enemy to your race. The gut, if your diet and what you eat is not right, you are now an enemy to yourself. Your actions are not your own actions if your three brains, the neocortex, limbic brain, reptilian brains, are not yours independently and they've been programmed to work for someone else. It is our three-way brain system which is our number one enemy. Although the three brains are just organs in your body, they control your whole life. Thus, any program or conditioning that they follow may either be friendly or not a friend, i.e. your enemy. Remember, the definition of an enemy is not your friend. Someone who is not your friend. Either the brain should become your partner for life or will become an enemy. There is no middle of the road. This brain is one of the most powerful tools that your soul should be using against a lot of forces competing and fighting to control it. Your three-way brain is not the real you, but an incredible, awesome biological ninefold soul or spirit interface machine. So do not fall asleep. But how could you not fall asleep? How can you use this brain machine to combat your enemy or prevent it to become your enemy? By engaging and knowing that psychological courage must precede physical bravery. You should use and understand the 6 types of courage and the perspective that you must employ them. Physical courage, social courage, moral courage, emotional courage, intellectual courage, and spiritual courage. Despite our massive physical stature and bravery, the barbarity and seasoned bloodthirstiness of the enemy continued to drain our ancestral self-esteem as well as our esteem today. Therefore, we need boosters since it's time to go beyond psychological courage and bravery. The good news is that we can train our brain for a better life by infusing our thinking, courage, and bravery through the knowledge of Het Heru, and also knowing that if we die doing what is right, we will eventually be able to meet our revered ancestors and divinities. That should give us courage. Our history leaves a trail of evidence which we can use to identify amongst our own people and other races the traits and characteristics of our enemy. The 7 traits of your enemy which we are going to present now. They could be more or less. You can amalgamate some of them, but we decided to give them the number 7. Remember, anyone with these or with one of these characteristics, despite smiling at you, pouring accolades on you, paying your wages, is not a friend but an enemy. Anyone who is envious of you and your success is definitely your enemy. Anyone who denies you your culture is your enemy. Anyone who steals from you is your enemy. Anyone who enslaves and colonizes you is your enemy. Anyone who deceives you is your enemy. Anyone who hates your ancestors or members of your own race hates you is an enemy, even if they be melanin dominant too. And the last but not least, the enemy of your friends is your enemy. So let's look at each one and give a few and add more flesh to it. Anyone who is envious of you and your success is definitely your enemy. There are a lot of people that deny the successes of our ancestors in ancient Kemet. The Kustu incense burner proves that our ancestors built the oldest structures on the earth, and this is found in the Sudan or Nubia, with the dates of ranging between 17,000 years ago to 70,000 years before present. This, anyone like Western prejudices or Egyptologists who do not promote this or who deny this or find reasons to say this is not it, whilst Egypt is in Africa, those are our enemies. Kemet was and remains the most advanced ancient civilization, but not the oldest. The oldest one is actually in the south, in the center of Africa. They also go through statements like black men have invented nothing, which is a lie. Even so-called great thinkers like George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, who said Africa has no history and did not contribute to anything that mankind enjoyed, is our enemy. Anyone who is envious of you and your success is definitely your enemy. Here is the Nsude pyramid, stepped pyramid found in West Africa. This was done by our ancestors. We have got a lot of evidence about that. Anyone who steals from you is your enemy. This is a bust of King Tutankhamun. He is a melanin dominant human being. This is a bust of Queen Tiye. She is a proper melanin dominant human being. But this is the darkest actor to portray King Tutankhamun. What a travesty of justice. What a travesty of fairness. Anyone who steals from you is your enemy. The other one here is Pharaoh Amenhotep in prayer mode. Here is Jenne in Mali 250 BCE before Islam in prayer mode. And here is Asiatic Muslim committing cultural theft and denigration of African prayer system. The Islamic practice of Salat, 5 daily prayer, was stolen from concept of 5 daily meditations practiced throughout Africa thousands of years before Islam was a figment in an Arab's imagination. Whoever did this, whoever practiced this is our enemy. It's serious and it's bad. Anyone who denies you, your culture, is your enemy. The Freemasons, they use our attire, they use our system, and they don't want you to know that. Look at this. They are not your friends. That's why they even have these sororities which do not allow black people to enroll. Much of what the European stole was not only from the Nile Valley, but also from West Africa and other parts of Africa. There is the Pope wearing the same regalia that our ancestors used. So anyone who denies you your culture is your enemy. Anyone who enslaves and colonizes you is your enemy. Look, Christianity enslaved a lot of us. In Virginia, they made rules that blacks who become baptized are not free. They even make laws that non-Christian slaves brought to Virginia are classified as slaves for life. These people cannot be our friends. The Muslims also in West Africa, right from Mozambique, in Sofala, Quelimane, Kilwa, Zanzibar, Malindi, Mogadishu, right up across to North and Northeast Africa, enslaved our brothers and sisters. They cannot be our friends. They are our enemies. Here is the number 5. Anyone who deceives you is your enemy. Our brothers and sisters in West Africa were already being deceived religiously by following Islam, and they dished their own culture. Political, economic, educational deception proves that this person or whoever is doing that is not your friend. The Chinese bringing in soft loans, so-called soft loans to Africa, yet at the same time taking over Africa. They can never be our friends. They are our enemies. Anyone who comes and says this is mandatory and yet have a history of experimentation like the Tuskegee syphilis study, which could have ended in 1936 but continued people being given syphilis and vaccinated with syphilis, these people cannot be our friends. Never mind their apologies or rolling in the dust apologizing. They can never be our friends. Anyone who hates your ancestors and the members of your race hates you is an enemy. Even if that person is an African or black or melanin dominant too. Look at what they do to the noses of our ancestors. These people cannot be our friends. Whoever did this cannot be our friend. Whether it's a melanin dominant human being or melanin recessive human being, they cannot be our friends. They are our enemies. If the ancient Egyptians were white or Europeans, as they claim, there is no way they could sculpt J.F. Champollion, 19th century French Egyptologist, with his left foot on the head of King Ramesses like this. Anyone who hates your ancestors or members of your race hates you is an enemy, even if they are melanin dominant too. Your enemy can be revealed through actions running on autopilot. Their enmity resides in systems and institutions, but sometimes very, very difficult to decipher or see. What should you do? You should know yourself first. Know thyself first by being grounded in your identity, totems, and bloodline. You should adopt a solid personal political worldview. You should never trust any government or government institution or any institution that comes with free handouts or aid or help, like free medication, free money. Remember, These are the same tactics that we use to catch rats or mice. So debt trap is actually a debt trap like this. Economic systems are like this. They are skewed against us, yes. Therefore, we need to think, we need to be creative and to craft our own survival strategies and own our own means of production. We also need to manage our own health, to eat natural, to drink natural African beer, to avoid too much sugar, too much fat, too much meat, and to aim to be healthy and to be vibrant and to live a long, exciting life. Finally, you also need to support Marifado or any other pro-melanin dominant groups. You need to support them not by posting their videos or posting their messages. Yes, you should do that. But on top of everything else, you must give material support because we are our own saviors. In conclusion, therefore, if you do not know your enemy, you will perish. Simple as that. You will never succeed because you eventually work against your being, against your melanin dominant brothers and sisters, and against your ancestors, and against your divinities, and against the happiness. Do you know your enemies? Perhaps to start to know your enemies today, you must analyze your most powerful tool, your three-way brain, which is not the real you, but your incredible, awesome biological ninefold soul or spirit interface machine. Ask, has it not been hijacked? Is it not full of fear? Is it not my enemy? Man is the master of thought, the molder of character, and the maker and shaper of conditions, environment, and destiny. If you don't know your enemy, your destiny has been crafted by your enemy. If you want to be engaged in this thrilling fight for survival, send us your specific request to join@marifado.com. Subscribe to our channel, Kamiti Hiburu Esik, share this video, and leave a comment. This preacher Rabbi LM Dumizulu saying, till we meet again. Siyabonga, tatenda, edupe, thank you, enkos.